Okay, today I finally got out of the house, looked out the window this morning and conditions were terrible. They've improved slightly, it's still raining slightly, but I decided to jump in the car, travel about an hour in the car, so about 60-70 miles, to a place I've never been to before, and it's called the Stone Virgins. And from what I've seen so far, and I've literally only got here 10 minutes ago, I'm glad I did. As you can see behind me, we've got these rock formations, so I'm going to try and pick out something in these rock formations that will give me a half decent shot, so that I can hopefully call this a successful trip. One of the things that landscape photographers do quite a lot is they go out and don't get anything and end up going home with nothing in the bag, being a total waste of time because the weather is so unpredictable. But rather than just giving up, as you can see the rain's getting a little bit heavier, rather than just giving up today, I'm going to stick it out and I'm going to hopefully get some decent shots. So let's see what we can get. Okay, I've set up my first shot and it's very close to the road, in fact right on the road. And the idea here is to shoot. These are pretty tall, I would say they probably stand about 40 to 50 feet high, but I'm going to shoot from low down to make them look even bigger. And one of the reasons I decided to come here today was because it kind of reminds me of a place on the Isle of Skye called the Old Man of Storr. So I decided to come down and let's see what we can get. A handy tip: always keep a good quality lens cloth handy, because when you've got weather like this, it's very tough to keep the lens clean. So that's the first shot, and I've exposed it as the camera tells me it's right, but I'm shooting a lot of the sky, so I know it's probably going to, the foreground's going to be underexposed. So I'm going to open up I'm going to open up and overexpose by a stop, and I'm using the 2-second timer, so that should help. And if I look at the actual image that I just got, the foreground is so underexposed. So let's try that again. And I'm overexposing by 2 stops this time. Now the histogram is telling me that it's okay, but I know it's underexposed. So one of the enjoyable parts of photography, landscape photography for me, is being able to get out and just take photographs. Not for anything special, just allows the mind to relax, concentrate on what you're doing, forget other things that might be going on. It's therapy for me. Also, it's good exercise. This is a bit tricky, this little hill, but hopefully worth it when I get to the top. So I'm standing out here on the ledge, and it's not as dangerous as it looks actually, but what I'm trying to do here is there's a There's an outcrop of stones here, and then beyond that is the stone virgins, the pillars. So what I want to do is I want to show the pillars in their environment, and there's an outcrop of rocks going up here to the left, and I'm shooting at f13 because I want to get the rocks in the foreground and the background in focus. So I'm shooting at 1/13th of a second at f13, as it so happens, ISO 100. I'm shooting on the 24-105 zoom, the Sigma, and I'm shooting at around 80mm on this lens. So it's pretty windy. I'm using the 2-second timer. At 1/13th of a second there might be a little bit of camera shake. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to up the ISO and take it up to 200, which is not a huge amount faster, but it will make the difference, and I'll wait until the wind slightly dies down before I take the shot. There you go. So should have a decent shot at that. Okay, so for this next shot, the idea is to get the rocks here in the foreground and have it layered. So you'll have a foreground, a middle ground, which is kind of barren, it's just grass, and then you've got the background with a lone tree and in the background. Now I'm going to use the 24-105 Sigma lens, but I don't know at what focal length will allow me to capture the foreground and the background together. So let's have a look and see. Okay, so I've set the zoom at around 50mm, and I've got the tree up in the top right corner using the rule of thirds, and I've got the rocks here in the foreground. The horizon is coming across almost the line of the rule of thirds, so it's 1/3 sky and 2/3 landscape or land. I've focused on the foreground. I'm using f13, and it's given me a shutter speed of 1/100th of a second, but I know that that's because the sky is telling me, I was telling the camera that it's bright enough. Again, the sky will probably be properly exposed, but the foreground will be dark. So let's just have a check at that. And the histogram is telling me that it's on the dark side. So if I look at the shot, I can see that it's dark. But actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to underexpose, which might surprise you slightly. So I'm going to underexpose it to get the details in the sky. And then I'm going to expose it as the camera is telling me to, and that should be allow me to get some details in the foreground, and I'll bring that out using software. Okay, so I've set up my camera to take photographs, to take a photograph that will include this outcrop of rocks, these rocks, and then the pinnacles in the far left. It's a pity there's a road right next to it, because it just takes away from that wilderness feeling when there's a tarmacked road. But there's nothing I can do, so I'll just take it as it is. Okay, so I'm at F13. Actually, I don't know if I need F13. Yeah, I'm going to leave it at F13. I was going to move down to F11, but I'll leave it at F13. I'm using the 2040-105 set around 50mm, and I've got an aperture of F13 at 1/6 of a second. I've got the camera set to the 2-second timer, and that's the shot. Histogram looks pretty good, and we'll see what that looks like when we get back. Okay, I've found another shot that I'd like to get, and it's of the tree up there with the rocks in the foreground. Again, I'm using the 2040-105, and it's set probably about 80mm at this point. The exposure is F13 at 1/10 of a second. I've got the camera on ISO 100, and I've got the 2-second timer. Now, I'm not over or underexposing, so I'm not using exposure compensation in these shots. That's the shot, 1/10 of a second. With the histogram, I've got a lot of the sky in the shot, but I'm hoping that I will be able to extract some of the details in the shadows using some software. And it's a bit windy, so take another shot just to be sure that it's nice and sharp. And if I check that, that looks pretty good. So I'm going to take another walk around, see what other shots have to be had, and if I get any other shots I'll pop them up at the end of the video. But in the meantime, if you found this helpful, interesting, please subscribe to the channel, because it does help. Give it a thumbs up, and I'll see you next time. Thanks very much.